Number two, though, is going to be how do we deal with a white boy telling the truth while a bunch of blacks lie? That's interesting. How do we deal with a white boy telling the truth while a bunch of blacks lie? So this takes us to a link on YouTube. I've been told several times to jump around in this, so I'm going to play the first part and then I'll stop it and jump to the next part.
Oh my gosh. Let's go to the URL. All right, yeah. Checks out. But notice that this article has no citations, none whatsoever. So what the heck does this have to do with slavery? Turns out very little whatsoever. So this quote is really misleading. Let's move on.
Here's the second thing you need to know. White people were the first to formally put an end to slavery.
Oh, there we go. Boom. Bigotry. Right there. Yeah. Yay! So notice, starts off with, but slavery was in other places. Woo! And then goes straight to a myth. Yep. Myth number 10 is literally the myth that they're saying right now. And let's just listen to what I have to say here, because it's a lot more concise.
First of all, slavery is still an ongoing issue. Many countries throughout the world have clear slavery, and not just coerced labor like Chinese factory workers. I mean, chattel slavery still exists.
We weren't allowed to be reporting on slavery. It's a practice the government tries to hide from outsiders. But as we would find, slavery is everywhere in Mauritania, if you know where to look.
It is illegal worldwide, but practiced anyways in a number of countries, so slavery has not ended. Furthermore, abolishment of slavery was not an invention of white people. The Qin dynasty were the first recorded abolitionists. They are the reason why we call that
Right when my
country
screen
China.
China, 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 China now.
Was an abolitionist. Slavery fluctuated throughout world history. The idea that slavery is inherently wrong does not originate in Europe, nor is it particularly unique there. Abolition was also motivated by slave revolts. Slaves were not just docile servants, but often actively opposed their own enslavement. Slave revolts happened throughout the modern period, one of which culminated in the liberation of Haiti, long before most European countries abolished slavery. Even when they were forced into the most wretched conditions possible aboard ship on the Middle Passage, there were around 250 shipboard slave revolts. It was such a problem that slave ships often had barricades to defend themselves against such revolting side to claiming that whites freed the slaves. For how wonderful it is that the captors freed the captives. How nice of them to just decide on their own volition to stop oppressing people. This is a particularly pernicious myth, because it makes slaves objects rather than actors in their own right, as well as completely forgetting the Western powers were particularly egregious when it came to the abolition of slavery. All of these myths need to be stopped.
My views have not changed whatsoever.
In 1833, Britain was the first country in the history of the world to pass a Slavery Abolition Act.
First country in the history of the world. And you know how they reference it? With our very next reference. Just the Encyclopedia Britannica. A 19th century abolition. Let's not talk about all the stuff that happened before it, huh? You know, let's not talk about Lithuania. Let's not talk about frickin' Russia. And remember, they said white people. They didn't say Europeans. They said white people.
Quickly followed by France, who in 1848 abolished slavery.
Quickly followed by France, who, you know, notice that there's kind of skipping over something with France here. The fact that France had actually abolished slavery during the 80s. Really forgetting. Mitanaka says, Haiti. 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 What? Somebody said something about an island. I don't know. We were talking about Britain, weren't we? Not Haiti. It's kind of awkward to talk about how benevolent the UK was, being the so-called first. When a historian hears a superlative like the word first, we start to shake. It says it in their linked source. This is the source they link right here. That's the link. And it says right here, for most enslaved people in British North America, however, the act resulted only in partial liberation, as it only emancipated children under the age of 6 for 4 to 6 years as apprentices.
They were quickly followed by France, who in 1848 abolished
Haiti.
slavery in her many colonies. Then, of course, came the 13th Amendment in the United States Constitution.
Then, of course, forgotten Haiti, forgotten Mexico, forgotten most of South America.
After centuries of human slavery, white men led the world in putting an end to the abhorrent
Not white men, Europeans, just God.
practice. That includes the 300,000 Union soldiers, overwhelmingly white.
Overwhelmingly white. There we go. I knew she was gonna say that. Overwhelmingly white. Let's see what this is linking to. Union dead, Union losses, blah, blah, blah. Oh, nothing about race. Let's see here. White. Nope. How about black? How about Negro? How about colored? How about just the word race? They made up at the very least, 10% of the Union Army, and they were only allowed to start serving in 1863. Think about that. At the bare minimum, they made up 10% of all of those who served, and they were only allowed to serve for like half the war. Think about that. And she's saying bullshit, absolute bullshit.
All right, so that prompt actually, that was like an 11-minute part of the video. I was told to jump to another section of video, which is a 10-minute section. I can't do that. But I think we get the gist of it, right? The white boy is pretty much looking at the prompt that we looked at before, and he's speaking up and I guess debunking things that Candace Owens had said. So I guess the prompt is trying to say, how do we reconcile the white boy, I guess you could say, speaking true as this black woman, Candace Owens, isn't? Only what say you to that?
I mean, yeah, this is exactly the thing I said we should have done. This white boy beat us to the punch. But yeah, I mean, ain't nothing to it, you know. I don't really see, like, I mean, I feel like we went over this topic. I feel like the white boy kind of just had his say, and it was all right. No, I got no comments after that. I feel like we already just went through this topic, and it just seemed like he was just being, saying what we said already,
But before you go, real quick, I'll just like to say that I'll just like to ask you, I guess, kind of like what Lero's saying. It seems like a lot of black folks get amped up when white, Tim Wise, these kind of people, when they start speaking some truths about, what happened during the Ma'afa and stuff like that. It seems like we get real hyped about that. And so the question I'm going to ask is, why do you think we care? Not you or me or Juana or anyone in the chat, but in general, why do you think when a white guy today, still in 2023, when a white person says some basic shit that other black people have been teaching for decades?
Oh, so yeah, that's why I was saying I wasn't impressed. That's why I was kind of like, let me just skip over this. But because I'm like, I don't get it. Because I feel like Buana just gave us the same lesson. I don't know. But you said, why do black people? Like I said, because black people are not at war, and that's why I know you were at the brother Brandon for that. Oh, by the way, yeah, your audio is your internet is kind of choppy right now, but I know you were the brother you had Brandon for that, but Brandon's kind of like holding a mirror up to people too. I mean, I know he might say some extreme stuff too, but he's kind of holding a mirror because a lot of our people are like, oh, I don't like white folk, and then it's like this white man, he just said something good, so he's it's like, what are you talking about? Like if you're at war with these people, then why are you listening to them? Because I don't want to go on the point we were talking about before with Buana, because I'll tell you, I'm about to write this book. I'm gonna have a chapter on strategy, and I said, one of the it's like choice. You have a choice. Be strategic, and I'm gonna summarize it with, Sun Tzu's quote, which is, all warfare is based off of deception, right? But part of the deception thing is stop listening to your enemies. This white boy comes in and he's talking blah blah blah. I kind of tune out, me personally, because I feel like I'm real about it. You know what I mean? But like I said, you got the brother, Pan African Strike Back, where he's like, look, a lot of people is phonies, and I like that he's calling out people on that, where he's like, look, say what you will, these people don't like. A lot of people don't dislike white folk, because if you disliked white folk, if you were at war with white folk, if you didn't, there's a lot of stuff that you'd be doing that you would not be doing. One of the things is you wouldn't be listening to white folk tell you something that Buana just told you. You'd be like, oh, I don't give a shit. But the thing is, because our people actually do like white folk, actually are looking for white acceptance, are actually looking to integrate with this white boy, are actually looking for breadcrumbs. Because of that, yeah, when a white man is nice to you, you could get caught with that. And you getting caught with that's older than any of us. In fact, I said, I think I put in my chapter of my book, I put down a quote from I'm supposed to read this book, Martin Delaney's book, Immigration or this, blah, 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 right? In that book, he tells you, hey, look, when he was a youngin', he had black folk talking about, look, actually, we can't do shit here. We got to go to Canada. Now, why Canada? I don't know. But he said, we got to go to Canada. We can't do shit here. And then some white folk told him, no, stay. Right? We going to look out for you. The liberals said, we're going to look out for you. And then Martin Delaney's telling you 20 years later, the liberals ain't do shit for them. And now 200 years later, we still going with the liberals, and we still getting soaked up by them. We still getting tricked by them. And it's the same shit, but it's like, it didn't start in this generation. Because when I'm talking about Martin Delaney, we talking about 150, we talking about people during the Civil War. In fact, Martin Delaney was the first black major in the Civil War. So we're talking about at the Civil War. Somebody who was in the Civil War was saying, you know what, these liberals was fooling us. And 150 years later, again, I'm a foreigner, right? But basically, our ancestors, you could say the black folk here, their mothers was tricked, their grandmothers was tricked, and not just mothers, their mothers and fathers were tricked, their grandmothers and fathers were tricked, their great grandmothers and fathers were tricked, the great. It's a generational thing of I'm gonna listen to these white boys, and it's like you can't and so me as a Caribbean, if you will. Right? I gotta just say, okay, this is a different country. But I already moved. My family's migrants already, so I could go. I understand if you're here and you feel like you can't go. I understand that. Me, I don't have that kind of obligation. So I'm like, okay, I'm out.
I appreciate that only. Let me just quickly shout out Brother Bakari for the super chat. Says great topic. I'll be in and out of chat. Going to watch the fight, Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. Yeah, by all means, Bakari, hit us with some blow by blow updates, I guess. Also, thank you to Ms. Vita for the super sticker as well. Much appreciated. All these donations will be going right back to the show and the network. So I appreciate that from you guys. KW Don 7 earlier also hit us with the super chat. So I appreciate it. Ms. Vita said, we need their validation. That's her answer to the prompt. And I think that's the sad thing. I think that's the sad truth of it. And what Oni said at the end there is a very important point too. If you're in America, generations upon generations, I could see it being hard for you to leave. Bahamian folks who've been there generations and generations since we got there, yeah, it's gonna be hard for them to leave too. So I get that point. But with that said, Buana, what's your thoughts on this need to kind of hold dearly when a white person says some basic shit that we're supposed to all know by now because our own scholars said it before. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
It's Koku. I believe it's a conditioned response. I think that black folks, we've been whammied into believing and thinking that, as Brother Bakari usually say, the white man ice is cooler. So if he makes some ice and I make some ice, of course his ice is better. You know? It's like that's just a conditioned response to subjugated and colonized people. You know, that's how they view the world through the eyes of their masses, unfortunately. And you have to really work hard to break out of that philosophy and belief and thinking. And if you sometimes when you're in a container, it's very difficult to see outside of it. But if you have the opportunity ever to have the realization, as only saying, to see outside of that box or live outside of that box, you're gonna say to yourself, oh, hey, the world don't really have the white person at the center of it. You know what I mean? Because other people doing the exact same things, and some of them even doing certain things better, much better than how they doing it and practice it this side of the world. And I think that because our experience is limited to the containers that we've been born into, and many of us have not ventured outside of that container, that becomes our reality. And the propaganda, that campaign that's going on within the container is like, you only could do anything. All is great unless it comes from us. That's the campaign that they wage, the marketing campaign that they wage on the minds of us on a daily basis. And I can end with this. And Oni could correct me if I'm wrong. There was this guy, he was a professor, a Jewish professor. His name was Martin Bernard. He wrote a book called Black Athena, I think in the 90s. And in Black Athena, he talked about how Egypt was primarily a sub-Saharan civilization. Now, press and everybody, the whole academic community gathered around and was like, oh, this must be some great insight that this man could be coming up with these kinds of ideas. I mean, this is wonderful. Where would he have gotten these things from? Well, if you read the notes, the sub notes of the book itself, he quoting extensively Dr. Benham, extensively Shakad D of them, extensively. No name mention of these guys when media attention was surrounding Martin Bernard. But even though our historians was talking about these things in the 80s and the 70s, it's like he's become the next big thing. It's because many of our people, unfortunately, at that point and at this point as well, we don't take the time that we need to in investigating ourselves and the things that we would have created and actually actively would have done and left notes, left books. Unfortunately, right now in the community, we're in the biggest readers in the world. So it's like when people come before you and they seem like the greatest, thing that you could ever possibly perceive, somebody who have an extensive memory or probably who would have done the work say, wait a minute. Oh, no, brother. He ain't original. He is just regurgitating what somebody else did just 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Here's the books. I don't want to read that shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think that we have to do some of the work as well. And we can't just leave the onus on someone else to give us what we feel to legitimize us. We have to do the active work itself because many of the workers, the foundational ground has been laid already all over the Black world. But for us actively researching and trying to find, where I could find myself, where I could discover these things. I think that we really need to do the grunt work, and many of our people ain't at that point as yet. I think we'll get there, but I don't think that we're there yet. I don't think that the interest is there yet. And the modern media, modern Western media, they dazzle you with many, many different things to distract you away from what's true. You know what I mean? And will actually buttress you and take you to the next level. So they'll entertain you until you die. Because, the wizard never want to reveal his hand. They never want to show you what's actively going on behind the curtain. They just want to make you believe that the whole world is Disneyland and we created it. Not understanding it's a bunch of slaves actively behind the curtain actually getting this thing done. So I think that we need to actively do the groundwork and try to seek out and search information that is to the benefit of ourselves. But I'll stop there.
I appreciate that, Buana. Let's welcome in our boy, Real Black Gentleman, RBG. How are you this week?
I'm straight.
Good. Go ahead.
I mean, how you deal with it? I mean, you just ignore it. I mean, this is my thing. It's like, look, unless these people, I mean, like the whole point about acknowledging history is the understanding what was all about. It's all about wealth. I mean, that's why they snatch Black folks out here. You know what I'm saying? They bring them out here so that they can live easier, so they can get their coin and trade amongst themselves. You know what I'm saying? That, you know what I'm saying? It was just a medium for them to get their coin and their dollar, you know what I'm saying? So they could swap, you know what I'm saying? Swap in their market. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what they can do is be more Robin Hoodish, you know what I'm saying? They know who stole us, then go ahead, do what you do. Robin Hood and distribute that shit, the wealth, you know what I'm saying? In a meaningful, transferable manner, you know what I'm saying? So that the Black folks won't have to give it back. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But like, I it's easy, you know what I'm saying, for these white people to come around here and like all of a sudden, like, you know what I'm saying, 20 years ago, these white people wouldn't be so comfortable actually, like, trying to be so refutative towards like what, I mean, objectively, what the lady was saying had some truth, even though, I mean, that it comes flat, but like, you know what I'm saying, him trying to refute that doesn't really like do anything to like really like, yeah, like that, tell me something I don't know. You know what I'm saying? That'd be my whole attitude. Be like, you know what I'm saying? Tell me something I don't know. Don't be like, Captain Obvious with like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Look, I mean, that's my whole point. I mean, you don't want to belabor the point. You take it with a grain of salt. I mean, I just mute to it. You know what I'm saying? I just like don't become receptive to the idea that it's something profound or anything really even worth bothering. And you're gonna talk, you know what I'm saying? Ain't gonna stop me, you know what I'm saying? All I gotta do is not listen to it. And just if someone comes to me on that level where it's like, hey, white boy saying this, you know what I'm saying? I just downplay it, like, yo, like, such and such already did that. Don't give that, you know what I'm saying? Don't give that more credit. That's all I got to say. Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate you coming through, Real Black Gentleman, for real. Afro Native World, thank you for the super chat. He says African freedom fighters, Maroons, Palanqueros, Cimarrones, Quilombolos, I'm sure I butchered that, sorry, were the first abolitionists from the first African captives in the Dominican Republic, 1503. They exercised liberation, Kujikala, and freed themselves. I appreciate that, even though I might have butchered some words. I appreciate that super chat. I'm going to give Trigger Happy the last word if no one else has anything to add on the panel. I'll give Trigger Happy the last word here before we go to the next topic. He says, all of the white peoples who want to do good just have a king of the black syndrome. They want to be worshipped, and black people eat it up. I feel you on that one, sincerely. Did anyone have any last words on the panel, or we good to move on? All right. Shoot the breeze.